This week, Donald Trump met Prime Minister Mark Carney and had the most Canadian meeting on earth. Passive-aggressive charm, polite defiance, and just enough eye contact to make it awkward. Over in the Vatican, we got a new pope. He's American, which should have been great news for Trump's fan club until they found out he supports immigrants. And suddenly, the internet lit up like Reddit thought it cracked the Da Vinci Code. Back home, Danielle Smith's separatist fantasy ran face-first into reality, specifically a wall of First Nations leaders telling her if you don't like Canada, feel free to leave. And just to round things out, Trump slapped 100% tariff on Barbie but gave Rolls-Royce a discount. Welcome to 2025. Canada's leading, and the world is watching. Prime Minister Mark Carney sat down with Donald Trump last week. Brave man. And he managed to do what most world leaders can't, survive the meeting with his dignity intact. Carney channeled all the calm fury of a disappointed Canadian dad. He said, as you know, being in real estate, some places aren't for sale, like here at the White House or Buckingham Palace where you've been. I've never seen Trump smile so big. He really channeled his inner Eric Estrada.
He made it clear Canada is not for sale, not even with a luxury condo bonus and a Freedom-branded fruit basket. Carney said, after speaking to the owners of Canada, Canada is not for sale, ever. That's how you reject a dictator and still get invited to stay at Blair House, which, by the way, Carney did, and no one else has this year.
And then, when asked if Canada will ever become the 51st state, he said, I love it, it's beautiful, and I'm an artistic guy, so never say never, but it takes two to tango. Carney said what needed to be said. It was, as many pointed out, a masterclass in how to deal with Donald Trump. Calm, clear, and the only leader to walk out of that mess like the grown-up. It was the political equivalent of, thanks for the offer, but we're not listing the house, and we don't want to see your brochure. And honestly, we felt really good coming out of it. It finally felt like the start of a positive relationship with the US again.
And of course, because the man takes credit for gravity, Trump is now claiming he helped Carney win.
Which is accidentally honest. He's basically admitting Canadians looked at him and voted for the guy most likely to tell him to sit down and be quiet.
Carney didn't get elected because of Trump. He got elected in spite of him because Canadians saw what was happening in the US and said, hard pass, give us the guy who actually ran 2 G7 banks.
So sure, Donald, take the credit. Just know it's the political version of being the ex who made us realize we could do better.
And then came the real estate pitch. Trump called the border an artificial line and said it would be beautiful to remove it.
He actually said, I'm an artistic person. Yeah, because nothing says artistic vision like living in a gold tower, buying a gold plane, and sitting on a literal gold toilet.
Carney's face said it all. You could see him thinking, this guy's unhinged, and yet he still has the keys to the big red button. He then said something like, we'd get great healthcare if we joined the US, which is adorable. It's like offering someone drowning a bottle of water. Donald, we have healthcare. It's called universal, and it doesn't come with a deductible the size of a car loan.
And when asked what he wanted from Canada, Trump said friendship. That's a weird flex. It's like asking your ex for a LinkedIn endorsement.
And then he doubled down and said, we'd get free military protection, which is wild because historically it's Canada showing up for them. We've backed them in every war. All they've done is try to invade us twice. The only threat we need protection from is the one holding press conferences about annexing Canada.
And by the way, we've got a new video up right now on Canada's peacekeeping role in Bosnia, because that's what showing up looks like.
So, big news! The Vatican got a new pope this week.
And they elected an American pope, which should have thrilled the red hat crowd until they realized he's not that kind of American.
He's Peruvian-born in Chicago, a White Sox fan, and yes, he speaks perfect English. But during his first blessing, he spoke Italian, Spanish, and Latin, which triggered the part of the America that thinks God only speaks English with subtitles for Texas.
This new pope believes in compassion, immigration, and helping people in places like Ukraine and Gaza, which, in certain corners of the internet, makes him a Vatican socialist. And of course, the conspiracy theories started immediately. How dare he not speak English? He's woke. I bet he drinks almond milk.
No, he just believes being Pope means caring about human beings. Shocking, I know.
So instead of celebrating a spiritual leader who actually lives the values he preaches, Trump world is having a full-blown theological meltdown.
Let's rewind a few days before the announcements. Just hours after J.D. Vance had a private meeting with Pope Francis, the Pope passed away.
Now, we're not saying J.D. Vance caused anything, but we are saying if you're the last person to see the Pope alive, maybe hold off on posting selfies.
And while the incense was still hanging in the air, Trump posted an AI-generated image of himself dressed as the Pope. You can't make this stuff up. It's like The Real Housewives meets Fox News.
We'll say it. This is the best season of Vatican succession we've seen yet. So also this week, Donald Trump rolled out another batch of tariffs. And like everything in his second term, it makes 0 sense unless you own a yacht and fear dolls.
He slapped 100% tariff on Barbie. Yes, Barbie, the doll, the one with the bendy legs. Because according to Trump, kids don't need 30 dolls, 5 or 6 should be enough.
Right, and billionaires, they do need a discount on a new Rolls-Royce to round out the toy collection in their 30-car garage.
So Barbie gets punished, but Trump cut a deal that lowers tariffs on British-made luxury cars like Rolls-Royce.
And just to be clear, those cars, they're not made in America. They don't use American parts. Meanwhile, cars built under the USMCA, where parts go back and forth across the Canadian and Mexican borders dozens of times, those are still facing full tariffs.
So the Ford or Chevy you're building in Detroit with Canadian steel and Mexican components, that's too foreign. But the British car with 0 US jobs behind it and probably Chinese steel, that's fine. It's great even.
Even the US automakers were like, wait, did we get dumped for a luxury import? Ford, GM, all of them are slamming this deal. He's taxing childhood and cutting deals for champagne socialism, and it's not even subtle. Barbie got the boot, Rolls-Royce got the welcome mat.
Because forget your kid's birthday, Jeff Bezos needs a new weekend car for his Aspen estate.
At this point, Barbie should launch a trade complaint, or just release Renegotiation Barbie with a tiny briefcase, a stapler, and the ability to stare down a billionaire and say, "Not today, pal."
Okay, quick pause before we move on.
The long weekend is coming up, so why not show a little Canadian pride?
Check out our merch store. We've got Never 51 gear, elbows up against authoritarians, hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, tote bags, and hats.
Why not get your mom and dad matching Canadian mugs, because nothing says United Front like morning coffee that screams, "We're not for sale."
You'll find the link down below to show your pride and maybe remind a certain neighbor we're keeping the border. Can we talk about something that's been bugging us all week? How are millions of Americans still falling for this billionaire con game?
Under Biden, you're mad about gas prices, food costs, inflation, which was understandable. But here's the thing, they're still high. And now you've got a president handing out tax cuts to billionaires and raising tariffs on toys.
Union workers are being laid off, and somehow the rich are racking up more subsidies and discounts than ever.
So where's the outrage now? When Biden was president, the cost of eggs was a 5-alarm fire. Now it's rent, gas, bread, interest rates, and suddenly it's just the price of freedom.
You were promised lower prices, you were promised more jobs. Instead, factories are closing and billionaires are walking away with the vault keys.
Under Biden, electric cars, they're woke. They're ruining America. Under Trump, quick, everyone buy a Tesla.
Debt ceiling under Biden, fiscal disaster. Debt ceiling under Trump, he's playing 4D chess.
Cancel culture under Biden, we need free speech. Under Trump, fire Disney and jail Saturday Night Live.
And the media machine is backing it all.
Fox News isn't journalism, it's customer service for the 1%. They'll scream about drag shows while your kid's school loses funding.
It's not about helping working people, it's about distracting working people while billionaires rig the system behind the scenes.
At some point, you have to ask, is this really about politics or just keeping you angry enough to not notice who's robbing the place?
Trump keeps changing the story mid-sentence, and his followers just nod along like he invented gravity. And if you dare question it, suddenly you're the problem. Not the fact that a guy with more convictions than Barbie has outfits is calling himself the Pope.
So, if you're still defending all of this, ask yourself, did Biden break America? Or did Trump just convince you it's broken so he could sell you the deluxe gold-plated solution?
So, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith doubled down on her dream of Alberta separating and her referendum in 2026. Only Danielle Smith could look at a fragile moment for Canada and think, you know what we need? A good old-fashioned breakup.
She even tabled legislation to make it easier, cutting the signature threshold for referendums in half and giving Albertans more time to collect them. Because when your policy isn't popular, the solution is clearly less democracy.
While she's busy workshopping Fox News soundbites, First Nation leaders across Alberta and the entire country made one thing very clear. You don't speak for this land, Danielle. You don't own it, and you don't get to walk away with it.
Chief Troy Knowlton of the Carney Nation said it best. If you have a problem, you can leave.
Let's be blunt. This isn't just some political stunt. This is a direct threat to treaty rights, sovereignty, and Indigenous jurisdiction. Alberta is Treaty 6, 7, and 8 territory. Those treaties are with the Crown, not the province. Danielle doesn't get to opt out of history, people.
And the response from Indigenous leaders has been unified and fierce. From the Mikisew Cree to the Athabasca Chippewan to the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations. This isn't a debate anymore, it's a line in the sand.
Chief Alan Adams said it straight up. If Alberta wants to separate, you're not welcome on our lands for resource exploration anymore. We don't know who you'd be drilling for.
Translation, you want to leave Canada? Good luck funding your pipeline on fantasy dollars.
And while all this is going on, the oil companies, the investors, they're watching this like it's a slow motion train wreck. Because no one wants to invest in a province threatening to unravel every legal agreement holding it together.
Alberta spent decades building partnerships and regulatory stability with Indigenous nations. Danielle Smith is torching that for headlines. And the Chiefs are done being polite.
Yep, they've got lawyers, they've got judges, they've got Crown prosecutors, and they're ready for a fight because they've been fighting for this land for 150 years.
Let's not forget, during Quebec's 1995 referendum, the Cree and the Inuit held their own vote, and over 96% of those chose to stay within Canada. This is that moment again, and First Nations are saying it loud and clear. You don't get to take us with you.
Canada has come a long way, imperfectly, but steadily towards reconciliation. We've built trust, we've listened, and we've learned. First Nations aren't just stakeholders, they're the first peoples of this great land. Danielle Smith is just a temporary premier sitting in a borrowed chair. She doesn't speak for Canada, and she sure as heck doesn't speak for treaty land.
And Fox News has already grabbed a hold of this story. So let's be real. Smith isn't talking to Canadians anymore. She's pitching to an audience south of the border, hoping that social media does the heavy lifting and oil execs bite on her spin-off fantasy.
As we've said before, she's echoing all the right buzzwords to fire up division just when Canada needs unity most. And while we can't say what her endgame is, we can say this: we're not going to let her undo decades of work with First Nation communities just to get another hit on Fox News or Newsmax. Canada stands with the First Nations, and we're not going backwards. And now, because it wouldn't be a post-election week without some good old-fashioned conspiracy nonsense, let's talk about the Conservative Party's latest trick, casting doubt on the election they just lost.
They're not calling it rigged yet, but their fundraising emails are starting to sound like they were ghostwritten by the Committee for Alternate Facts and Feral Hashtags.
Let's clear something up. Canadian federal elections are counted by hand, with paper, in front of witnesses, with no machines and no apps, and there's no secret backdoor hacking from your cousin's basement in Medicine Hat.
2 election workers, a room full of party scrutineers, and every ballot read out loud like it's the world's most boring audiobook.
There are literally people watching the count who are paid to interrupt if anything looks shady. And still, because some results were close, 4 ridings are getting recounts.
Which is normal. Recounts are automatically triggered when the vote margin is less than 0.1%. In some cases, a candidate can even request one. It's all outlined in, get this, the law.
The Conservative emails, full-on panic. Liberals are trying to tip the scales. No, you just lost a couple of squeakers, and now you're out here shaking the donation jar like it's a broken vending machine.
This isn't the US. We don't play stock the steal here. We play double check the math and chill.
If you don't trust paper ballots counted in front of you, maybe you just don't trust democracy. Here's a thought. Maybe the real problem isn't the vote count. Maybe it's the fact that your leader spent more time avoiding his security clearance than releasing a costed platform.
Or that your policies sound great until people remember they also enjoy having rights.
If you made it this far, congrats! You've survived the Barbie terrorists, the Vatican cosplay, political fantasy land, and a whole lot of gold toilet energy.
And make sure to check out our Canadian Pride series, where we break down how this country keeps showing up for the world even when no one's watching. And yep, our Travel Tuesdays have officially moved to Wednesdays, because the news gods clearly own Mondays now, and we just can't edit that fast.
So hit subscribe, tap on the bell, and come back every Sunday for sharp politics, big laughs, and a weekly reminder that Canada isn't going anywhere. And make sure to leave your comments below because we want to hear from you, even if you disagree with everything we say, because that's how democracy works.